Jonathan Knight, and this is B-Movie Madness, the movie I'm going to review tonight. Let's go to a little trash can. Ooh, a good one. Popcorn. Now, Popcorn is a 1991 slasher movie about a group of film students who put together a horror-thon in an old abandoned movie theater. And in the process, they find a short film called The Possessor, which is linked to some nightmares our lead actress or our lead character is having. And soon enough, during the horror-thon, there's somebody killing the students one by one, and it comes all together at the end. The mystery comes together all at the end. And I said that very, very badly, but I'm not a big reviewer, so be nice to me. Now, this particular copy is a limited edition steelbook from Snaps. Now, they've been doing this, I don't know when they started doing it, but they did it to the Demons movies and a couple other ones where they released a limited edition steelbook first, and then later on they released a regular edition in a regular case. So this edition right here is only limited to 3,000 units, and it's a little pricey. So unless you are a hardcore popcorn fan, I recommend waiting until the regular release comes out. As for why I love this movie, and I've always been a huge fan of this movie, is even though it's not a very gory or very graphic kind of slasher movie, it is a very loving and charming tribute to 1950s monster movies and horror movies with a little bit of slasher DNA thrown in, because there is a body count, but like I said, not everything. It's not particularly gory or violent. But I think the films within the film that are played during the horror-thon, and their names are, let me get them correct: The Attack of the Amazing Electrified Man, Mosquito, and The Stench, are so much fun to watch. I had a smile on my face the entire time rewatching the movie, just watching those films within the film. And not only that, I thought the killer's backstory was actually pretty engaging and pretty interesting to follow, because he's a very tragic figure. I don't want to spoil who this person is, but he's able to make life casts of all the film students' faces, and he puts the masks on it so he can look like them, so he can look like anyone in the main cast. At the same time, you got this kind of, subplot about, not really subplot, it's the main plot about the lead character having these nightmares that are connected to the killer. And this killer uses the horror-thon as an opportunity to get his revenge, because it's a revenge tale, ultimately. But like I said, I don't want to spoil who the killer is in particular, but the killer was really interesting to me. I thought the person the actor who performed as the killer was very, very good. He died at a very early age of AIDS, but he was in a bunch of movies back in the day. He was in My Girl. He was in one of my favorite 80s comedies, One Crazy Summer. And if you know those movies, as soon as you see the movie, you'll know who he is, and you'll know I spoiled the killer. But at the same time, you'll be like, oh, that's pretty cool. I thought the backstory and the whole loving tribute to those old-fashioned movies is what made me love this movie. And a lot of people are going to go into it disappointed that it is, even though it's a slasher movie, in a way, it's not particularly gory or violent, but it has so much heart and so much charm to it that, for me anyways, it's hard for me to hate it. There's a movie that came out, I think 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, called The Final Girls, which was a PG-13 slasher movie. When I heard about it, I was like, I can't believe it's a PG-13 movie. When I saw it, I absolutely loved The Final Girls. The PG-13 rating, once I actually saw the movie, did not bother me, because that movie was so much fun to watch that I just didn't care. And Popcorn is, although I don't think it's as good as The Final Girls, it's the same thing. I just had so much fun watching Popcorn. I didn't really care that the kills weren't particularly gory. There's a little bit of blood. In fact, on the Blu-ray, they talk about how they originally, the people who were going to distribute the movie in theaters, they were going for a PG-13 rating, but the MPAA censorship thought it was too intense for a PG-13 rating, so ultimately it got an R. But I'm telling you right now, if you have younger kids and you want to show them some horror movies, you don't want to show them something that's too intense, I highly recommend showing them this, because I don't think it will scare them It might be a little bit too intense for the younger children, but I think they'll have fun during it, and it's a great way to kind of get them into the more harder edge horror movies later on. Like if you're talking about slasher movies, more like the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. This is as good as it. Hell no, not even close. But like I said, it reminded me a lot of Joe Dante's Matinee. If you know that movie, which that movie was a very loving tribute to 1950s monster movies and all that. This is almost the same thing. I was going to say that movie was actually set in the time period the movies came out. That movie's similar to that, but with that slasher DNA in it. And it just, I keep repeating myself, but I just had a blast watching Popcorn, rewatching it. The HD transfer on this looks gorgeous. I never owned the American DVD that came out in the early 2000s, I think it was, so and everyone said that looked horrible, so I'm just going to believe them because I've never actually seen it myself. Because the disc I had was a PAL DVD from the UK, because that US disc went out of print a long time ago, so that's the only way I could be watching the movie for I usually watch it every October, so that's the only way I could watch the movie. So watching this, it looks gorgeous. There's a commentary track with the director, some of the actors, and special effects guy. There's a documentary, about 57-minute documentary about the making of the movie, including that movie had a very troubled production. They ended up firing a director midway. I don't even think it was midway, and the main actors, and they had to replace them. So it was a very troubled production. If I had to pick apart any problems I had with this movie, and I'm not the kind of person, I don't look deep into a movie just to find a problem. If I see something I don't like, I just comment about it. There's two things I didn't like about the movie. It was very obvious it wasn't filmed in the United States. It was actually filmed in Jamaica, but they tried to make it look like the United States. And most of the time, I think they did an all-right job, but it's very obvious at times that they were actually shooting in the United States. For one thing, all the music pretty much in the movie is reggae music, and it kind of sticks out. The other thing I don't like is there's a plot point, or like a plot point early on where the main character's mother goes to the movie theater before they actually set it up for before it opens up for the horror-thon. And there's something that happens, I don't want to spoil it, but the thing that happens is more or less it kind of comes across as like supernatural, almost supernatural, and it doesn't really make sense because the killer himself is not a supernatural villain like Freddy Krueger. So there's a scene that happens that just really sticks out very badly. It almost seems like in the original script, they wrote the killer as a supernatural killer, and then they changed their mind, but they forgot to take this one little bit out, and it just sticks out. Those are the two things that stick out to me. A lot of people have commented about the reggae music, and it does kind of stick out. I don't think it sounds bad. It comes off as weird. But just like I said, if you are a huge fan of just like how movies were kind of presented and shown back in the 1950s, like a lot of the William Castle kind of gimmicks, which all three of the movies, they have gimmicks in it. The mosquito has a giant mosquito, and the actual movie has a mosquito go across the movie theater. The electrified man, they actually have the seats hooked up so they'll shock people. And the Stench movie, which is like a Toho kind of like monster, it's a Toho like Japanese import, and they have they pump this stinky gas in the theater, kind of like a smell-o-rama thing. I think that stuff is so cool, and that's something that movies back in the day, I'm so jealous of people who got to experience those kind of gimmicks and all that, because all we have today is 3D, and I'm really not the biggest fan of 3D, just because I think it's overpriced and just I don't like it. So I'm kind of jealous of people who got to experience this kind of stuff. And Popcorn is if you want to know how movies were like kind of presented back in the 50s, I highly recommend watching Popcorn, because then you get that. You also get a cool little slasher movie with it, and a cool little mystery, revenge thriller kind of thing going on. Like I said, the killer's backstory is very interesting, and his motivations are very interesting. And I felt sad for him, because you can't blame him for what he's doing. Is he taking it to a little bit too extreme? Of course. It's like that in most horror movies. The slasher villains are kind of taking it a little bit too far. But you can't really blame him. Sometimes it's very tragic. Like I said, this is the limited edition. If you are a hardcore fan, I recommend getting it now, because after it's sold out, I know for a fact there's a couple people who probably have bought a whole bunch of copies of this, and they are going to scalp them on eBay very quickly, and they're going to charge an arm and a leg far more than actually what they're charging right now for it. So unless you're very patient and you want to wait for the Royal release, I have no idea when that's coming out. I'm going to guess maybe by the end of the year, hopefully. Synapse is very busy doing other movies. They're doing a big 4K restoration of Suspiria. So, like I said, if you're a hardcore fan, even if you're, I don't recommend it as a blind buy unless you are a hardcore slasher nut. Then yes, definitely pick it up, especially if you feel compelled to watch it. But until then, I would recommend waiting for the wide spread release, which hopefully is sooner than later. But show it off a little bit. There's a back cover thing. You can take it off, and it has the original. I'm going to take it off right now. It has the original poster art, which is what the VHS and the original DVD had. And if you look inside of it, there's the DVD, there's the Blu-ray and the DVD, and then right over here with the foreign poster, that's a booklet with liner notes from Michael Gingold. But like I said, if you just want to have, if you know what you're getting, because there's some people who, you know, I've met that don't like the movie. It's perfectly understandable. A lot of people are kind of like, why are they charging that much for a limited edition of popcorn? I can kind of understand because it is kind of strange. But this Blu-ray has been in the works for a while from Synapse, so I'm just glad it came out and I can enjoy it. So, like I said, love popcorn. One of my favorite, because the 90s really is not a high mark, at least for me, for horror. But this is one of my favorites of that decade. So, popcorn, a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. If you like it, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Until then, I'm Jonathan Knight, and it's been B-Movie Madness. Again, thanks for watching.